Hello, hello, and welcome back. You are listening to Andrea with From Mrs. to Ms. It is solo week again. So it is just me this week. I'm really enjoying actually kind of getting back to my roots with all of this and talking to you guys just about what's going on in my life, what's new and exciting out there in the world of relationships and dating and finding yourself again. And somebody had reached out to me and asked to hear my journey and my story and how I got to where I am doing this podcast and where I am in my life. And I thought, what a great opportunity to talk to you guys and kind of give that story. I'm sure I did in the beginning of the episodes, and so much has transpired since then. And so I thought I would just share my story today with how From Mrs. to Ms. came about, how I went from being a Mrs. to Ms. and where I'm at in my life today. So I'm really excited to share that with you guys. So with all that being said, let's get started. So my name is Andrea. I'm just kidding. We're not going to go back that far. Okay, so going back, it all started for me. I actually got married at a pretty young age. I was married at the age of 24. I was pregnant. And I had been dating my now ex-husband for about 3 years at that time. We were not necessarily sure we were going to go the distance, that we were going to last and have it turn into something when I suddenly found out that I was pregnant. So that kind of changed everything. Life turned around for me at that point. I was in a job that I really loved doing. I was actually a Hooters girl. To be honest, I was 19 years old when I started as a Hooters girl. I worked there for probably about 4 years. I loved it. It was so fun. It was such an easy job. It was making friends. It was a schedule that I loved. And it wasn't as risque as most people might think it was. Yeah, we were wearing short little orange shorts and tight little tank tops, but I wear less to the beach now, don't I? So it was pretty easy. I loved that job. I had also just started fashion design school and I was doing some modeling. So finding out that I was pregnant really did turn my life upside down. And, I just had to go with it. I'll be honest, it was hard. It was hard. I was 23 years old at the time, had a lot of stuff going on, and pregnancy was just not in my current future, however you want to say that. It's not something or a place that I thought I was going to be in. And so I had to make decisions. And I made those decisions with my now ex-husband. And, of course, now the best decision I ever made was to have my son, of course. But I'll be honest, there were times that I actually thought, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Is this where I see myself in the future? And I really grappled with that. And I think that everybody has their own journey when it comes to something like that. And you don't know what it feels like until you're in those shoes. And that's where it makes a big difference. But I knew that my faith in the Lord, the faith in my partner, the faith in my family, and my decisions would help me to get through that and to make the best decision for me at the time. So, of course, we had my beautiful son, who's now 27 years old. He's an incredible child. I feel I was totally blessed for making that right decision to have my son and not, go down a different path. So that was the start of my little family. And so within a year, my ex-husband and I got married. A year finding out I was pregnant. And so we actually got married about 10 days before having him. And, it was tough. It was, when I'm thinking back, I'm humming and hawing as I'm saying this out because I really haven't told this whole story in a long time, and just how I felt in the moment and where I was in my life. And, it was definitely hard. I decided that I wanted to, pursue the relationship. I felt it was what I needed to do. I was young. I really didn't know any better. I was a little bit of a sheltered child. I grew up, very close with my family. I didn't really do a whole lot of wild, crazy things. This was absolutely a huge thing in my life and my family's life that this had had happened and occurred that I was now pregnant. And so we all had to make the best decision. And so I ended up getting married 10 days before I had my first child. And I didn't specifically know where I was at with my ex-husband in the terms of feelings, how I felt about him at that time. Like I said, we were coming kind of to the end of our relationship. We weren't sure that we were going to pursue the relationship past the 3 years. We were in limbo when I found out I was pregnant. So it was a really big decision for me to want to marry him. But I kind of felt like that's what we should do. I was pregnant. I was 24. I'm reiterating this again. And so it felt like the right thing to do at that time. So we pursued it. We moved forward. Everything was good. We lived in Florida at the time. We were very close to my family. He got a job out of state in a new state. We moved to New Mexico for a couple years. That was very, very difficult for me. I'd never been away from my family. Like I said, I was very sheltered. So it was a big jump for us. We didn't have anybody to help take care of the baby with me. So it was a lot. I was young and I was at home with a child and trying to make everything work and keep my sanity. And I was in this brand new marriage. It was a lot. And so after a couple of years in New Mexico, my ex-husband got a offer to move to Dallas for another job. And he had family there. So it was the perfect opportunity for us to do that. So we picked up and moved our little family to Dallas, Texas in 2000. And that's where I had spent the next 20 years of my life. So it started out with my son and my ex-husband and I living in Dallas, Texas. And thankfully we had family around to help with him and everything was on a good path and we were doing really great. And I was going with the flow. And then we decided to have another child. It happened accidentally, even though we decided that we wanted to. We knew we wanted to, but it kind of happened, just on the fly. We weren't necessarily trying for it at the time. And that's where I had my second son, Grant. And so he was also born in Texas. Well, time went on. We were together a total of 23 years, including the 3 years that we dated. So we were married for 20 years. And, we went through a lot of ups and downs. He stayed at home with the kids when I was working. And we talk about this all the time. We talk about, the double-edged sword. Why is that okay for a woman to stay at home with a child and not necessarily okay for a man? And it's not that it wasn't okay for him to stay home with him, with both kids, really. It was more for me the fact of what happens after they get a little bit older. They're now in preschool, they're in daycare, wherever they may be. What is happening now within your relationship, and how are you both supporting each other, taking care of your family together and doing things together? So it was a little bit tricky for me, and I'm not here to badmouth my ex-husband at all. We are great friends. I love him dearly. He is a huge part of my life still. I'm just speaking how I felt during this time. I felt like I was not getting necessarily the support that I needed within the relationship, the marriage. He was not working a lot of that time. It was very on and off. Even once the kids went to school, he was still not working. And I was paying all of the bills and bringing in, all of the money and supporting our family. And so it became harder as it went on. I think that you start to become a little bit resentful. I think you feel angry a little bit at times because you feel like you're doing all the supporting. What do I need a partner for if I'm going to be doing everything and taking care of the kids and the household and the bills and then I'm being looked at to provide sex and, everything that goes along with that. And I think things just went off the rail a little bit. There was never one moment in my mind that I can think, oh, that was it. That's what did it in. There was never anything like that. I think it just went through the years, and this is how it was within our marriage and in our life. And we were dealing with it and going through everything. And eventually it was just too much. I was in the mortgage business, so I was working consistently. I've worked all my life consistently. And I was trying to grow up the ladder in the corporate world. And I was, working a lot, and I was making great money, enough money to support us for sure. But I wanted that that two-figure family. I wanted the support. I wanted to feel like we weren't living paycheck to paycheck, like I could build a savings. That was very important to me. And so when I say the resentment came in, it came in because you see somebody doing things that you're like, oh, well, I paid all the money for that. And, or you go to dinner and you're watching and I'm not having all of these extra things. I'm not getting a glass of wine. I'm not getting an appetizer. I'm looking at the menu as soon as I sit down because I want to see what the bills are. And then your partner starts ordering, a beer or something. And it's just those little things that I think just give you that, how dare he? And, looking back, how dare me? How dare me feel that way? Because I expect a man to support his family the same way. And I wouldn't hesitate about having a glass of wine at dinner with him when he is supporting the family and we go out to dinner and have something like that. So why should I feel that way? So it was a really hard struggle for me mentally to try to figure out where I was at with that and how I was feeling throughout all of it. We also had a lot of times my kids were involved in acting at a young age. And I actually got them into that. I had done acting and modeling when I oh, still going. Let me mark this. Okay. So we were very excited because we were getting calls that they were very interested in Hunter for the Smucker's commercial. It was to play Tim and Richard Smucker when they were younger. And so he was submitting for Tim Smucker. And so they ended up flying him to California and he got to go in and audition with multiple other people that were playing for Richard Smucker, which was the younger brother. So they kept bringing him in and out to try that, which was amazing. And I remember feeling a little bit of that resentment again. The resentment of, wow, I am here supporting the family. I am taking care of every bill. I'm taking care of every meal. I'm washing clothes. I'm cleaning the house. I'm doing everything there is. Plus, I'm submitting my kids for these opportunities in hopes to build a future for them. And when the opportunity presents itself that now, oh my gosh, he's really close to actually booking this national commercial, my ex-husband swoops in, and because he's not working, he's the one that is available to now take him to California for these auditions. Now, remember me saying that I was involved with acting and modeling, and this was something that was very near and dear to me. Dancing, all the creative stuff kind of came from me in that sense. He was more a sporty guy and he did a lot of the sports. So this felt like something that was mine and that I had submitted him for and was helping him along the way. So I was a little bent out of shape. My nose was bent out of shape because he was getting to go. They flew first class. they had all this amazing stuff and opportunities for them while they were there that he got to participate in. So yeah, a little bit difficult for sure. But I just went along with it. I know that I was there to pay the bills and make sure everything was taken care of. I wasn't going to leave my job. So that was fine. Long story short, he did end up booking the Smucker's commercial, which was a massive blessing. So exciting. And it turned into 10 national commercials that they ended up running for 10 years. So he did amazing with the commercials. They were very nostalgic. They were being seen all over the place, and what an opportunity. And then he was able to basically be set for his future financially. So such a blessing. And maybe that's why that happened that way. And we would not have maybe been able to do it if I was working and I couldn't go on all of those commercials and adventures with him. So it turned out the way it absolutely should have. Then fast forward a few years, and now Grant, my younger son, was also into the performing and all of that stuff. And we had recently got him into dancing and singing because he wasn't very sporty. So he really enjoyed the dancing and the singing and all of that. And he was great at it. And then he ended up booking Kids Bop, which is what I submitted him for as well. I thought, you know what, he would be great for this. They were looking for a boy his age that could sing and dance and was an all-American looking kid. And so I videoed him and I did all his tapings and everything, and we sent it in, and sure enough, he got called, and he went through multiple callbacks with them. They did a boot camp for the entire summer in Dallas, Texas. And we knew what they were looking for. They loved him. They thought he was great. And it was an incredible opportunity. And if he got it, he would be going on tour basically for 3 years to do live shows. And he booked it. 20,000 kids auditioned, and they booked 4 kids. And Grant was one of the 4 Kids Bop kids in the first ever live tour shows. So it was an hour and 45-minute show. They would do live singing and dancing and interacting with the audience. And it was incredible. And he did 165 shows in like 52 different cities. And he went to Alaska and so many states. And it was incredible. He got such an opportunity to learn how to talk to the media, to do any kind of interviews, to do his social media, how he presented himself, to perform live on stage, to control his breathing and his singing and his dancing. And he grew up during those 3 years. It was such an incredible opportunity. But if I take it back to my life and how I came to the end result that I did with my marriage, that actually happened again, where the opportunity came. They needed a guardian that was at least 18 years old to go on tour with him. Anyone could have gone. But my ex-husband did decide to quit his job and go on tour with Grant. And so I guess a little bit of that resentment came in again, tenfold at that time, and made me really think about where I was in my life, where I wanted to be. I wasn't having the feelings for him that I should have. I wasn't attracted to him as I should have been. I thought of him as my friend. He was my best friend, still is, a roommate, a partner, all of those things. And so it changed the way I was starting to look at him. And I was starting to question, am I still in love with him? Or am I in love with our family cohesiveness? Do I love the family dynamic of us being able to do things together? And so when I really started to look at that, I thought, okay, Andrea, what does this look like for you? You are in your early 40s, just coming up, I think, actually. I might have just been coming up on my 40s at the time. I was taking care of all the bills and paying everything. He was gone a lot because he was on tour with Grant most weekends. And I just wasn't in love with him anymore in the way that I should have been to be in that marriage. And so I think that was my turning point. That was the catalyst to the divorce. And at that point, I did talk to my ex-husband and say, I feel like I want a divorce. It was very, very hard to do. It was in March of 2016. After I finally got up the courage to say that, it took me another 6 months to even file. Not because I didn't want to, not because I had second thoughts. It was just, I needed that courage to do it. And I knew what that entailed. That meant being alone. That meant, I hadn't been alone since I was 19 years old. It was just a different world. But I knew for me, was I going to stay in a relationship that wasn't satisfying to me, that wasn't fulfilling? And I wanted more for myself. And I knew I had so many more years to live, and why wait till I'm older when it would really affect things differently? I wouldn't be living my best life. And so I just took that opportunity, and I remembered where I saw myself and where I knew I needed to be. And that's when I said, you know what, it's time to file. And so then I filed the paperwork. Then we had to go through all the mediation. There was so much stuff to go through, and it was hard, ups and downs, a lot of crying, a lot of second guessing, a lot of explaining, a lot of questioning, a lot of loving, and a lot of feeling alone. And so finally, divorce was finally final in November of 2017. And we were still very good friends at the time. And so we took that opportunity to say, you know what, listen, we're going to go our separate ways right now. We're going to sell the house. My ex-husband decided he was going to move to California with my two sons and pursue whatever opportunities were available to them. I decided to stay in Texas for a couple of years and kind of get the separation between us, and gain my independence and figure out exactly who and what I was at the time. And so that's what we did. And so during that time, For Mrs. to Ms. kind of came about. I was starting to date. I was figuring out my new life and what that looked like, being on my own and doing my own things. And so I decided I was going to start dating. And I immediately came out, and I've told this story before. This was Dick Slapped episode, where I immediately came out and went young. I thought that was what I needed to do. I needed to get my groove back. And so I started out dating at, I think he was maybe 28 or 29. And we dated for a few months. I don't think we had anything in common. It was fun and it was enjoyable until it wasn't. And I referenced that episode called Dick Slapped because it was a different scenario for me. It was nothing I had experienced before. It was my first time being with somebody that was not my husband at the time. And so I was intimate with this person, and it was it was just interesting and scary. I mean, there was lighting strategically set up throughout the room. The mirrors were in just the right places. And then he proceeded to climb upon me and started slapping me in the face with his penis. And that threw me for a loop. I didn't know that was a thing. It was not a thing for me. I was so lost. I thought he was lost. I thought he couldn't find the hole. For sure. And so I was really kind of flipping out, and I just started crying, and that's how that ended. That that relationship ended really quickly after that, because I just wasn't ready. And I put myself into a position that I was not ready for. And, I just wish I had waited. I wish I had tried to find myself more, taken time for myself to really explore and see what was my needs personally, not with somebody else. And, but that was an experience. It gave me a great episode for sure. And so then I started to really get into, I wanted to talk about some of these crazy dates that I was having. These dates were like off the hook, some of the different things. Guys calling me by the wrong name. I was, going out and meeting them, and they were, not showing up. I was being ghosted. Oh gosh, I was all over the place. I mean, I had guys sending me dick pics and pictures of themselves naked saying, I told you I was a big boy. I don't know. I did not expect any of that. And I thought, you know what? These stories are so funny. I started telling them to my friends. My friends were like, oh my gosh, these stories are great. And we'd go to parties and they'd go, hey, tell them about the story about da, da, da. And it was, it just started to take on a life of its own. And people were like, you need to write a book about all of these fun dates you've had and these stories. And I thought, no, I need to tell these stories. I need to tell them because it's the inflection, it's the character, it's the energy behind it and the vibe and how the story is played out. And so I ended up joining a network. It was the GMSC network, and they were looking for a podcaster. And so it was a internship. I was not even going to get paid. They asked me to start doing a podcast on relationships, but it had to be twice a week, 1 hour each, no guests, no co-hosts, no ads, no commercials, nothing, simply me talking for 1 hour straight, which obviously you can tell I can do, but how long can I continue to do that for? And twice a week. So I kind of negotiated, got it down to 1 hour a week. And they asked me to just start recording episodes and send them to them. I thought it was interesting that the lady told me that it was a bit of a PG network, that I could talk about. She knew I'd be talking about sex and dating, but I had to be real careful in what I was saying with that. So I could talk about cocks, but not dicks, which I thought was very humorous because it was a PG network, she said, which to me, cock seemed very much more pornish than dick. And so I started thinking of, the guy that told me to eat a bag of dicks. Could I say he told me to eat a bag of cocks? I don't know. It just didn't have the right sound to it, did it? No. So I went with it though. I was a follower. I did what I was told. I started recording these episodes in my closet by myself, just talking for an hour, making my own jokes, laughing at myself, telling my own stories. And then I would upload them and they would put them out on the network. And that was it. And so I enjoyed it for a little bit until I started realizing, wow, this is crazy. They're not even training me. They're not showing me anything. That's not a true internship. They're basically taking my episodes, uploading them and using them, and I'm not getting paid for anything. So that was when I pulled it off of the network, and I thought, I'm just going to do this myself. And so that is what got me to From Mrs. to Ms. That was the start of From Mrs. to Ms. back in 2023. And I just started telling the stories. I started out doing it by myself again for a little while. I did have a co-host for a little while named Katie LeBlanc. She was wonderful. We had a lot of great episodes that we did together. And we kind of just played off each other. We knew where we wanted it to go. And so we continued to do that until we got to a point where, I don't know how else to say this. I think things were just misconstrued. We never had come up with an agreement on a percentage that we would get off the podcast, or I just assumed we were going into this 50-50. She didn't necessarily feel the same way, felt she was a little bit more valuable to the podcast than I was at the time. She approached me initially with an 80-20 split, which then went, we narrowed it down. But in my eyes, I asked for some time to see if this is something I wanted to do, to give away a portion of the podcast that I felt I had created. It was my stories. It was my guests. It was my title. It was my IP address. It was my everything. And to just give that away just didn't sit well with me. And so after talking to multiple people, multiple guests, other than family and friends, I approached other guests that had been on the show, and I asked what they thought of me as the host. And, the feedback was very, very positive in my favor. So I'll leave it at that. I did go back and say I was just going to take back my IP address and move forward with the project myself. And so that continued on with everything the same. And just me going forward, interviewing guests myself, finding my own way, doing my own solo episodes, having friends on, all of that. And so here I am now. It is June of 2025. I've amassed over 150,000 downloads on From Mrs. to Ms., which I am so grateful for. I'm so grateful to every listener out there because it's not easy. And so listening and downloading and liking and supporting my podcast is so fabulous and so incredible, and nothing I ever imagined. I'm on Listen Notes and I am listed. My podcast is in the top 2% globally. And so what a feat it's been. I love talking about relationships. I love talking about dating. I love talking about finding yourself and reclaiming your life. I talk about my relationship with my ex-husband. Yes, we are divorced. I was no longer in love with him. We found our way out, and we are still the best of friends. I think we realized at this time, maybe we were not the right match for each other at the time. We were in the right place at the right time for each other and what we needed at that time. But we were growing in two separate directions, and we both wanted different things. And that is okay. And we have been able to sustain this incredible relationship, not only for us, but for our kids. And I love him dearly, would do anything for him. And I think he would do the same for me. There is no romantic attraction there anymore between us. We've both dated. We talk about our dates. We talk about our different situations going on, and we're supportive of each other, and we listen, and we do all of the right things. And it has just worked out better than I ever imagined it could. Now, going on from there with dating, I've talked about my struggle with dating, personally. The dating sites are a mess. It's very hard to find somebody of status, maybe status isn't the right word. I've talked about my dating life and how much of a struggle it is out here. The dating apps are a mess. It's very difficult to find somebody that is genuine and authentic, that's not looking for something, looking to gain something, looking to use my status for something. It's just hard. It's just hard, but it's not impossible. There's a lot of people that have met really great people in the dating sites. I encourage people to meet people out in the wild organically, go out on blind dates, do speed dating, try new groups that you can meet up with, try new sports, some pickleball, maybe take an art class, a Pilates class, go for hikes, just do whatever you can to meet new people. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I have dated in the past couple of years. I've had some wild situations. I've had a couple relationships that just didn't pan out. And I'm learning as I grow. And everything has a reason for happening the way it did. And I'm okay with that. And I know my person's out there. I don't believe that there's only one soulmate for everybody. I think that we're meant to meet different people at different times for different reasons. And I know my person is out there, and I feel like I will know it when I see them. It's just going to hit me like a brick, maybe, I don't know. But I think everything will just fall into place when it does, and it will all make sense. And so that is my journey, how I came from 19 to where I am now. I'm 50 years old, and I am loving what I'm doing. I was in the mortgage business, as I said, for 25 plus years. I got laid off about a year and a half ago, and I was turning that lemon into lemonade because I thought, you know what, I'm not going to go back and try to get into this volatile business at the moment when things are crazy. Let's work on something that I really want to work on and that I'm passionate about. So I was doing the podcast. I wrote a children's book in the meantime, which is based on my son, Grant. It's called Grantsy Pants. That should be coming out later this year. And I have gotten back into modeling. I've been doing some voiceover work, some acting. I am doing a YouTube show right now where I talk about relationships, and I host a trivia show. I am loving it. I am absolutely loving it. No, I'm not making the money that I was making in mortgage, not even close. But what my sanity and my daily takeaways to get up every morning and not begrudgingly get out of bed, to feel like I'm making a difference for somebody somewhere. I am enjoying this journey. I've met so many incredible people, the interviews, the contacts that I've made, all of this, it's unsurmountable. And it far surpasses anything I would have ever done in mortgage because it paid me more. I could have my fancy car, my fancy house. I don't need any of that. I've made money. I have that put aside. I'll be fine. But I am doing what I love to do. And this is talking about me and where I've come from, and talking about how you can do the same and reclaim your life and find that love you're looking for and do all of those things that you want to do. Yes, it's scary. It is scary. Every single day is scary, but I take chances and I take every opportunity as it comes my way, because you never know what it can turn into. I never would have imagined I'd be sitting here still with this podcast. I have over 100 episodes. I don't think my family would have even imagined this. And it has opened opportunities and doors for me that I could never have imagined. So if you are wondering and questioning, taking that leap of faith, doing that next thing that excites you, that makes you want to get out of bed every morning and do it. And you can find a way to live your life, make some money doing it. Maybe you got to do 10 different jobs like I'm doing right now to make ends meet. And that's okay, because why not? I'm meeting people. I'm doing new things. I'm figuring out things about me. It's amazing. So I implore you to get up and go for it. If you are hesitant about doing any one of those little things that you are not sure you can do it, you're not sure you can spend the money to do it, your money, you're going to make that money back. Do not be afraid of spending that money because you are your own best investment. So take the time, do what you want, live your life. Life is too short to be sitting behind a desk. Life is too short to be in bed with a man or a woman you are no longer in love with, and you fight with and argue with, and you can't see past your own self to get out of it. Find your way out. If that's what is best for you, find out what is best for you and live your best life. Okay, that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed hearing my journey, how far I've come and where I'm at, and that you continue to follow along with me. If you know somebody that wants to hear this message or any of my messages, please follow me on any social media. I'm at from.mrs.2.ms. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. You can email me at Andrea at from.mrs.2.ms.com. I will respond to every email. I love to hear from you guys. If you want to talk about something on my show that you want me to talk about, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm looking for collaborations, for sponsors, anything to keep this dream alive. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to come back on Tuesday. I have another great episode with another great interview, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.